Welcome to this week's Future Toolbox podcast. We explore the Z to A of life skills, where each letter stands for a topic and essential tool to help you get ahead in life. Meet Jules and Mark, creators of the multi-award-winning Future Toolbox, and enjoy their straightforward approach to creating growth mindsets that help people turn their dreams into realities. Whether you're a teen in education, a parent, a teacher, or part of a community group, start creating positive habits from today.
Hello and welcome to the Z to A of Life Skills. I'm Mark and this is Jules.
Hello.
And this week we are carrying on the theme of goals for the new year. And today's topic is G is for goals.
G is for goals. And this is one of our favourite subjects. Now, if you recall last week, we talked about New Year's resolutions and setting intentions for this year and possibly choosing a word to describe what your intentions are for the next 12 months. But today we're going to give you some tips on how to set some awesome goals. Now, there is a saying, a goal without a plan is just a dream.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And a lot of people, they have a dream, but they don't achieve the goal just because there's no plan in place. As you know, I love stats.
He loves stats.
Would you like some stats?
Go on, hit me with it.
Hit you with some stats. Now, this is according to the Ford Foundation. And we use this in quite a lot of our goal setting sessions. In fact, we use it in all of our goal setting sessions. 1 in 5 people have no idea what they want in life.
That's true. And 2/3 of people, they actually have an idea of what they want. But guess what? They've got no plan of how to get it.
So these are the types of people that just sort of leave it to chance, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
But 1 in 10 people, they do have a specifically well-defined goal, but only half of them achieve it because sometimes things like life gets in the way, they run out of energy, or they perhaps lose their motivation.
I was going to say motivation quite often is there. And something else that we've talked about is the why you've set that goal or what it is you want to achieve.
That's right. But what's the best stat of all? The top 3% of people achieve their goals 90% of the time. And these are generally the most successful people on the planet.
They are, and yeah, who'd like to be in the top 3%?
Well, the great news is that these stats have probably stayed the same for a number of years, but they can be changed. And the top 3% isn't just the top 3% of people in a room, or the top 3% of people that live in a certain place, or the top 3% of people in a job or a business. The ratios can be changed. So shall we find out how to change some ratios?
Before we go into giving you those tips, we thought we'd share with you some of the goals that we've set over the last years and how we actually managed to achieve them. I remember waking up a few years ago and saying to Mark, my goal this year is I want to complete a marathon distance. Not being a runner, I knew that would not happen. However, I needed to choose an event where I could actually walk it. So I chose the Beachy Head Marathon, which is quite a challenging one. However, I knew that I could walk it. I was setting that goal at the beginning of the year and the actual marathon wasn't until October. So that gave me a good chunk of the year to be able to plan and train to make sure that I achieved it. And guess what?
You did it!
I did it!
Well done. I was so proud of you for doing that.
Well, you were by my side.
Of course, yeah. I love that because when you set that goal, you put the target in place. And this is something we, again, talk about quite a lot in our goal setting programs, is actually having that target. So I love the analogy of football. In the game of football, we all know, whether you like it or not, the object of the game is to score the most goals, isn't it?
It is.
Now, imagine that we went to a football match and there was 80,000 people inside the stadium at Six Fields, of course. That's where Northampton play, just in case you're not local. But joking aside, we're inside the football ground and the game's just about to kick off and somebody walks on the pitch and takes away the goalposts at each end. Then the players kick off. What's going to happen?
Pandemonium, because they won't know what to do.
I know, it'd be pretty
Nothing
pointless.
to aim for, is there?
Nothing to aim for. It's pretty pointless. And that's a great analogy for life, because if we don't have goals in life, there's nothing to aim for. Life becomes a bit pointless. Perhaps there might be a bit of pandemonium, I don't know. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So we need the goal and the target in the first place. And I remember you setting that goal and saying, I'm going to do the Beachy Head Marathon. But then you had to do a lot of other things to achieve that goal, didn't you?
Well, yes, I had to put that plan together because you can't just rock up and complete 26.2 miles, whether you walk it or you run it. There has to be some training in there. So I needed to get my body used to being able to being on my feet for long periods of time and that amount of distance as well. So yeah, I put a training plan in place.
That's right. But if you flip that around again and think about the football analogy, if you said, I'm going to do a marathon, don't know what I'm going to do, might get around to doing one, but here's a plan to do one, you really wouldn't be able to achieve it if you didn't enter it in the first place.
No, this is very true.
So we need a goal and we need a plan.
Well, we've established to setting a goal, you need a target and you need a plan. So how about we share with everybody what we do in our sessions before starting setting the goals, our 3 questions of direction.
I love the 3 questions of direction. So they are, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And how are you going to get there? I'm going to ask you them. So
Okay.
Where are you now?
We're in the recording studio.
Of course we are, yeah. And where would you like to be?
I would like to be somewhere very exotic in a hammock.
Oh, nice. Tropical beach or something.
Absolutely.
So where are you now? You're in the recording studio. Where would you like to be? Hammock, tropical beach, possibly a cocktail in your hand.
I was trying not to say the cocktail.
And how would you get there?
I would have to plan when I could go there. I would have to book it. I might have to save up for it, get on a plane, pack my suitcase and go.
So that is fundamentally how we set a goal, isn't it? We look at where we are now, which is the basis, the grounding point. Mm-hmm. Where we want to be is the goal, the target, the thing at the end of the football pitch. How we're going to get there is all those plans of who we're going to pass to, who's going to shoot towards the target and the goal, if you're using the football analogy, or in our case, plan the holiday.
Or again, doing the marathon. It was an epic challenge, but completely doable because of the planning, and I knew what I was aiming for.
So if we use the example of the 3 questions direction of how you planned that marathon, when you had the thought process in January to do the marathon and complete it, where were you at that point?
I've always been lucky enough to have a good base of fitness, purely because I've always tried to keep myself fit and healthy. In terms of that distance, never done it before. I have done half marathons before, so I'm guessing with a bit of effort and planning, I could do it.
So where are you now? Good level of base fitness, done a half marathon. Where did you want to be at that point?
I'd wanted to be able to tick that off my bucket list and say that I've completed that distance. So where I want to be is seriously at the finish line, cheering and having all the celebrations.
I remember that. I remember you used to visualise that moment, didn't you? So where do you want to be? Visualising the finish line. And then the most important bit after setting the goal was how are you going to get there? So what did you do to achieve the Beachy Head Marathon?
I simply put a plan together in terms of recognising where I was and starting to be able to go out walking. I knew that to be able to complete it, I would need to be on my feet for a good 6 to 7 hours, because the Beachy Head is not a flat course. I knew it was up and down, lots of hills, lots of mountain, lots of steps, but I just needed to get myself used to being on my feet for that amount of time. So initially it was literally, I would say, right, I'm going out walking at a fairly good pace for an hour. Then I would build that up till eventually it was probably 2.5, 3 hours. And then I'd look at the distance that I'd covered and then carry on in terms of either a weekly or fortnightly upping that distance and amount of time on my feet until I could stay, I could keep going for a good 5-6 hours.
I remember that day when it was absolutely hammering it down with rain. I just finished my breakfast. I just got back from park run. And you went, right, I'm off for a walk now. I'll see you after lunch. You were gone for hours and you came back soaking wet.
I did.
It was horrendous weather. You were so dedicated to that training plan.
I must admit, a lot of the training, the weather for some reason was not kind to me. There was many a time when I came home, like you say, very wet, very cold. But I was determined that it was something that I really wanted to do. And I had that massive why, and I kept that in mind. Now, when we're talking about setting goals don't always have to be what you want to accomplish. Just discussed something that I wanted to achieve, but it doesn't always have to be something sport related or along those lines. It could be that it's a habit that you want to change, that you don't like. It might be a habit that you actually want to create. Or maybe it's something that you want to stop doing. Now, you have to remember that goals, they're yours, they're personal, and they can be whatever you want and whatever you desire. There's no right or wrong as to what your goals are.
I really like that. That is such a positive statement. And sometimes it's about the feeling as well. So I remember going back to that Beachy Head, the feeling that we had at the finish line was immense. And that was the feeling that you've been visualising for quite some time.
I didn't expect to have such cold hands. They were really cold at the end of the day. It was a freezing cold day in October down by the beach, but thankfully we didn't have any rain.
And I know, it was beautiful, wasn't it? That's just brought me on to thinking about the positive and negatives of goal setting. And we talked about those people that don't achieve their goals. 2/3 of people have an idea, but they don't achieve it. And one of the reasons why a lot of people fail is because they set goals in negative language. We talked last week about intentions and people stopping smoking. And Lex came on board and talked about the negativity of saying quitting is a negative statement. If you say, I want to quit smoking, or I want to stop smoking, or I want to lose weight, lose is a negative term again. So it has to be a positive statement, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Your mindset and your language and how you set about achieving whatever that goal is that you've set is key and is critical to it being successful.
And a lot of positive people actually set the goal as if they've actually achieved it. So you'd have said in January that year, I've completed the Beachy Head Marathon.
I did. I said that to myself.
I've done it.
That springs to mind a story about Roger Bannister when breaking the 4-minute mile. He'd visualised himself doing it that many times that he actually believed at one point that he had done it.
That's right. He used to wake up in the morning. It's like, I've done it. I've broken the 4-minute mile barrier. And then realise that he hadn't. And then he'd get back to work on achieving his goal and training for it. So 2023 goals for us at the Future Toolbox. One of them is to create an app, isn't it? For the ztoaoflife.
It is. It's a very exciting goal.
So if I'm going to apply the 3 questions of direction, let's think about where we are now. Where are we now?
Go on then. Where are we now?
So if we think where we are now, we obviously have a lot of knowledge and a lot of material.
We do.
We have the idea in place of what we want to create, and we've already started recording some content.
Yes, and we've started putting a very good plan together, knowing exactly what it is that we want on the app.
So where do we want to be? Now, we want an app released by the end of this year.
If not before.
It's going to be before, definitely. Now, this is really bad because we need to have a date on this. So
we do need to have a date on this. Are we going to set a date live?
Let's set a date live.
So I would say by September, because then, yes, definitely.
Okay.
There we go. You've heard it live.
Start of next school term, we will have an app which will be launched and you will be able to go on and use via your phone or device or whatever you want. And how we're going to get there, we've already started the planning, we already have the content. But what we need to do is find the platform that we're going to host it on.
Yeah, we're in discussions with people already on that front. So we're beginning to get there a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah. The next thing we need is funding, and we've started putting some funding bids together and looking at those. So if you've got a spare few £1,000, chuck it our way.
We'd be ever so grateful.
There's no harm asking live on air, is there, on our podcast? And also we need to create more content and market the app as well to start.
Once it's the app's all up and running and we've got everything up on there, we need to get it marketed out there to you wonderful guys so you can get access to all this help that we're going to have for you.
Fabulous. There you go. We've just set a goal on our podcast.
Yes, that's fantastic. And it's really, really exciting. It sounds like we've got it all in place and a plan in place. But we are quite early on in this. And when you're planning something quite big or even small goal, it is really, really key to plan small steps. Sometimes if you try and do too much too quickly, then there is the risk that it may fail or you may fall down. And then the whole mindset goes into negative spiraling and you might just give up on the whole idea. So when you're planning your goal, remember small steps all the time.
That's just reminded me of the story of Sir Edmund Hillary when he conquered Mount Everest in 1953. Now, Everest is 8,848 metres in height.
Wow.
That's pretty high.
That's pretty high. Who did he have helping him?
He had Sherpa Tenzin, didn't he?
Sherpa Tenzin.
So, yeah, this is a private joke, by the way. We were talking about Sherpa Tenzin. I didn't know who he was the other week. That's irrelevant anyway. I do now.
I educated him.
I've been educated. So Edmund Hillary, Sherpa Tenzin, they conquered Mount Everest just under 9,000 metres in height. That's getting on for 6 miles, vertical climb. Now, a lot of people saw Hillary off on his first steps on that mountain. And people saw Hillary take his final steps when he put the flag in the top of the mountain, or they certainly heard about it through the news and the media. But what people didn't do is they didn't think about step number 4,000 or metre number 4,000 or whatever that step was on that journey. They didn't see every single solitary step he took. They also didn't see the years of planning he put into it and the years of training and all of those obstacles he had to overcome on the way. People just looked at the first and the last steps, the beginning and the end, so to speak, especially the end.
Especially the end, because that's quite often the bit that you celebrate is the end goal, isn't it? The achievement.
That's right. And it's the same with the football analogy earlier. We always see the goal scorer who wins the World Cup final, scores a winning goal or whatever, but you don't see them putting in their training every single day and so on. So those small steps are so important.
So here's some tips on how to set awesome goals. And we're going to use that acronym, awesome. If we look at the first letter in that word, A, we say that stands for ambition.
The definition for ambition is a strong drive to achieve something. It's sometimes thinking about what it's going to do for you.
Yeah, what is that goal going to do for you? What is it going to give you? So that's your ambition. So the next letter in the word awesome is W, and that stands for why. Now, whenever you set a goal, you need to understand the why behind your setting that goal. Why do you want to achieve that? Why do you want to create that habit? Why do you want to stop that habit?
This is really key to think about the emotion as well. And I remember somebody saying to me once, have a why that makes you cry.
Oh, wow.
That's quite powerful. You don't literally have to be in tears with your why, but the emotion behind it, you get the idea, don't you?
Yeah, tears of joy, not tears of desolation that you didn't do it.
Not at all. What does E stand for?
E stands for executable. So basically this means make sure that the goal that you are trying to achieve is achievable, that you can physically and mentally do this.
Yes, because when we go to schools and we ask teenagers, what's your goal? They'll sometimes say things that are quite unrealistic, like have superpowers or time travel.
Or they want all the money in the world.
All the money. We hear that one all the time, don't we? I want to be a billionaire and have all the money in the world and control the world and everything. It might be possible to do, but I don't think it's a good idea.
It. And how do you know how much all the money in the world is anyway?
I know, you need to leave some for somebody else, don't you?
Which actually takes us to the next letter, which is S for specific. So whenever you set your goals, you need to make sure they're specific goals.
Yes, so if you're saying, I want to lose weight, that's not a specific goal. If you're saying, I will weigh 80 kilos by the 1st of August, for example, that is a specific goal. Or my bank balance will read X amount by X date. Again, it's specific instead of just saying, I'm going to be mega rich.
So the next letter in the word awesome is objective. Now, when you set a goal, your goal might be quite small or it could be quite big. But within that goal, there are small things that you need to achieve as well. So they will be your objectives. What are they that you need to achieve alongside your goal to make sure that you achieve it? So you need to plan those in too.
So I guess this is breaking down your goal into smaller bite-sized chunks. There's always that analogy where people say, how do you eat an elephant? And people say one bite at a time. I don't know about you, but I'm not into eating elephants.
I've never ate an elephant in my life.
They're a protected species after all, so we don't want to eat elephants. But yeah, just break it down into smaller chunks.
Which brings us beautifully along to the letter M, which stands for measurable. Again, when setting your goals, make sure they are measurable so you can see your achievements, you can see how you're getting towards your goal.
So I remember in your training plan from the Beachy Head Marathon, and you were ticking off distances and you were ticking off times as you went along. So you were able to measure how long you've been on your feet for. That was quite key, wasn't it?
It was key, and it showed how close I was getting towards the goal that I'd set.
And the final letter is E, which stands for expiration date. And if you have a goal and a plan, but you don't have a date, it could become quite difficult to achieve that goal because you could lose focus, you could lose track of time.
And it's hard to keep motivated if you don't know when you want to achieve that. You go back to the analogy of doing the marathon. I knew the date that I booked to go and do that. I'd paid to enter that particular race. So that was my date. But it is really crucial when you're setting any form of goal or anything that you want to achieve that you put a date on it.
Again, another phrase I heard was set your goals in stone and your dates in sand. So sometimes life will get in the way, which will stop you achieving your goal. But in your case of doing the Beachy Head Marathon, you had a time-sensitive goal. You couldn't do it the day after or the day before because that was the date of the marathon. However, if you just said, I'm going to do a marathon when I get round to it, the chances are you wouldn't have achieved it. So by setting the goal with the date on it, it became time sensitive, and that was your expiration date for your goal.
It was, but as you quite rightly say, sometimes things get in the way, and it's perfectly acceptable to change the dates. It could be that you bring it forward, or it could be that you extend the end date, but still have that expiration date on your goal. Now, there's a good friend of ours. She has set herself a goal to run a ultra marathon and raise funds for my charity, Breast Friends Northamptonshire. Unfortunately, she's picked up an injury, which means she can't actually do the one that she wanted to do. However, undeterred as she is, she has found another ultra that she can do in a few months' time, so allowing herself to recover from her injury. So she's just changed the expiration date, but she's still got a date.
All in all, that was pretty awesome, wasn't it?
It was. I like the pun there.
Keeping in simplicity, I'm going to recap a couple of things. First of all, we had the 3 questions direction. Think about where are you now? What are you good at? What's your base point? Where do you want to be is your goal, the target you set, and how you're going to get there is your plan. And then if you want to follow the acronym, you can write down what AWESOME stands for. So we have A for
ambition,
W for
Y,
E for
executable,
S for
specific,
O for
objective,
M for
measurable,
and E for
expiration date. So there you have it. Using the acronym AWESOME can help you to set, stay on track and achieve your goals.
If you'd like to find out more about how to set some specific goals and how to achieve them, we actually have a brand new program called the Magic Steps to Goal Setting, and you can find this at a special price on our website. If you go to the shop, scroll down to online programs and you can see it there, and it's pretty fabulous.
Do you know what? It's awesome.
We also have loads of free content on that very website, so go to futuretoolbox.co.uk and subscribe to receive our newsletter, also read our blog. You can also find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram and
TikTok.
And go to our YouTube channel, which is at Future Toolbox. And we look forward to seeing you next week. What's the topic for next week?
Next week's is all about affirmations, and these are really, really good in helping you achieve your goals as well. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us for the Z2A of Life Skills with Jules and Mark of the Future Toolbox. Don't forget to head over to their website, which is futuretoolbox.co.uk, where you can find lots of free resources, plus a host of books in the store, as well as subscribing to the membership site. Follow Future Toolbox Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Future Toolbox, and subscribe to their YouTube channel too.